This anime begins as we watch someone barely managing to stay on a tightrope. Students gossip about how he just got into another fight and how he is nothing but trouble. Even the parents discuss how dangerous he is. Everyone thinks that he's too dangerous to even look at, but it's to be expected since everyone knows that he doesn't know how to interact with people. They insult his appearance, citing how he refuses to dye his hair black. Even the color of one of his eyes is wrong, and they use that to say that he must be cursed. Everyone thinks he's disgusting, and the kid eventually falls off the rope. We then see our angry protagonist for the first time, named Haruka Sakura. He explains that he likes the strong and couldn't care less about the weak. Nearby, some guys harass a girl and wonder if she wants to go do something. She would like to bash some eggs over their heads, but that would just be a waste of good eggs. The guy warns her not to act so stuck up and he keeps her from leaving. Haruka then explains that what he hates the most are weak people who think they are strong. Haruka interferes with the gang of harassers and tells them that it's too early to be acting so lame. The leader tries to attack Haruka, but unfortunately he is one of the types that Haruka hates the most. Haruka easily drops this guy and wonders what could possibly be going on in his head that makes him think that he is strong when he is not. Haruka demands that they drill his name and face into their brains so that they can tell all the weak people they know to run away from him when they see him. Haruka, or some kind of psychopath, as he also wants them to know his name so that they can tell all the strong people how to find him. He declares that he is Haruka Sakura from Furin High School. Haruka leaves these jerks, but the girl stopped him to say thank you. Haruka is confused and wonders if she is talking to him. She confirms that she was, and Haruka makes it very clear that he actually didn't do that to save her. He only beat those guys up because they annoyed him. Haruka declined her offer to eat something, but she ends up feeding him anyway. She can tell that he isn't from this town, and it's pretty rare for anyone to come visit. She explains that the gang he had just fought has been causing a lot of problems, and the town's public safety has become non-existent. She admits to not being from this town either, and introduces herself as Kotoha Tachibana. Haruka can't understand why she's being so nice, since most people would be afraid of him, especially after he just beat up 5 guys. Haruka begrudgingly eats her food when she asks him to, but he's shocked by how amazing it is. He wonders if a restaurant does take off, but she corrects him as the dummy is trying to say, take out. Tachibana points out that his eye and hair colors are all out of whack and he wonders if she has a problem with it. She is more amazed than anything, but the paranoid Haruka thinks she wants to brawl. Haruka is surprised because normally people are grossed out by his appearance, and they demand that he dye his hair. Haruka explains that looks don't matter in a fight and that is why he came to Furin. Furin is known for having students with the worst grades, but they are also the best fighters. They are the people that slip through the cracks at other schools and end up at Furin. Furin fractions brawl every day to decide who is on top, their dedication to fighting so strong that they even fight on holidays, and Haruka determined to become the top dog. Tachibana points out that this is aiming pretty high, but Haruka reveals that the reality is he is just as dumb as a brick and fighting is all he knows. To him though, nothing sounds better than fighting to be number one, and this place is perfect for him. It soon becomes clear to Tachibana while he's in uniform already when school doesn't even start until tomorrow, it's because he's excited. The embarrassed Haruka explains that he just moved so he didn't have anything else to wear, but she just teases him more. Our protagonist Haruka resorts still fighting as always, and demands that they take this argument outside. Just then, when a Tachibana is orderly customers almost forgets his to-go bag, but Haruka reminds him. As Haruka heads home, he thinks about how strange that entire interaction was. The old man gave him some candies and told Tachibana to thank him. Haruka isn't used to so much praise, so he calls the entire town weird, including Tachibana. He points out that he's wearing the uniform of a school of delinquents, and his appearance is really strange as well. It doesn't make sense for people to be thanking him. Normal people would be on their guard around him and wouldn't trust him. Haruka once picked up someone's wallet and they accused him of stealing it. Just then Tachibana explains that Haruka made the right choice by coming to Furin, but unfortunately there's no possible way he will become the top dog. Shockingly, she states that he might not even be anyone there, let alone be top dog. Haruka points out that she has no clue how strong he is. She acknowledges that he might have strong muscles, but explains that he still won't be able to become top dog. The problem that he has is that he is all alone. Haruka becomes furious and declares that he's not so weak that he needs to rely on anyone else to win. As he leaves, Tachibana clarifies that she isn't talking about physical strength. She recommends that he could meet some Furin kids, since then he will understand. Nearby, a group of hoodlums wreak havoc and some poor lady calls someone for help. Haruka runs into the guys from earlier and the leader's surprised that he came. He calls our boy if you're in trash, but Haruka just tries to ignore him. The leader points out that he didn't forget his face and mock Haruka for his appearance. This guy is shocked though, when he realizes that this is Haruka's real hair and eye color. They thought that he was just doing some terrible cosplay, but he points out that it being real is even more disgusting. Haruka smiles as this is what a normal reaction to his appearance is supposed to be like. This is the disgust that he has gotten used to, but it's okay because he has given up on that end. Haruka still wants to feel like he has value though. If he can beat whoever is in front of him, then he can feel like he's better than them. The problem is that Haruka can't stop thinking about how Tachibana told him that he won't be top dog because he is alone. The leader declares that his gang will start a war against Furin for Hakura punching him, but Haruka isn't even listening. He's still focused on Tachibana's words as he punches the leader again and he declares that he isn't the one avoiding people. Haruka lets out his true feelings about his appearance. It doesn't make sense how people act. He knows better than anyone that he looks weird, but he never did anything to the people that insult him. This is just who he is. Haruka starts beating down on this huge group of thugs. In his mind, as long as he is the strongest and the best fighter, he will be top dog. Being alone has nothing to do with it. The gang tries to attack him all at once, but it's no use as Haruka far more skilled than them. Haruka instantly takes on any opponent that comes near him and the fur is somehow heavily one-sided even though Haruka is outnumbered. Just then one of the thugs takes Tachibana hostage, but he pays dearly for this very stupid move as Haruka instantly knocks him out. Tachibana thanks him, but Haruka once again explains that the thugs just pissed him off. They tried to use a knife, so he tells the idiots to keep the fight clean. One guy tries to sneak up on him, but he just ends up learning a valuable lesson. Haruka fights off even more of them, but he is hindered by having to stay in one place to defend Tachibana. He wonders why he's defending her in the first place and reminds himself that helping others never ends well. Still, Haruka continues to defend her, but eventually one of the thugs uses the knife to cut his leg. Haruka is in a really bad spot now and thinks about how this is why he doesn't defend people. He once again questions why he decided to help her and prepares to take a bat right to his skull. Just then someone stops the attack and Haruka notices that this stranger is wearing a Furin uniform. This guy surprisingly stopped the bat with his back and he tells Tachibana not to tell a certain person that she was in danger. This guy wipes out the bat wielder and tells the punks that they made a real mess in this town. His buddies arrive and the guy furiously tells the gang that they're in big trouble. Backup has arrived, but they're disappointed to see so few opponents as they didn't all need to come to fight. Haruka is in absolute shock as he can't understand why Furin is saving him. The thugs are terrified to see the one named Toma Hiragi, but they're confident they can win since they outnumber them by a lot. Hiragi tells the others to make quick work of these guys, so they begin to absolutely demolish them. One guy goes to attack Haruka and Haruka gets caught in a terrible spot as his leg can't move. Hiragi saves him again and tells Haruka to stand back if he is hurt. Haruka fiercely points out that he is not his boss and explains that the thugs were his to fight. Hiragi just tells him to stop moving around since it makes it harder for them to protect him. Haruka is completely shocked and he looks around to find that the people of the town are cheering on the Furin guys. Haruka can't believe what he is hearing and Tachibana reminds him about how she said that the town's public safety was nearly non-existent. However, this was only true up until 2 years ago. That all changed and it was all thanks to the students of Furin. The first thing they did was put a notice board at the town's entrance. It states that if someone brings trouble to their town by harming people or property, they will be the ones to purge them no matter who they are. Tachibana explains that somewhere along the line the townspeople gave the Furin students a new name. Because they fight to protect the town, they are known as the town's Bofurin shield called Windbreaker. After the fight, all the townspeople come out to thank the boys. Although they used to be known as low-grade hoodlums, the Furin students are now well respected in the community, however they still do fight quite a bit. They are beloved by everyone, but most importantly they are needed. Haruka is shocked at how different this town is, since the fighters are treated like heroes. They have the appearance of thugs and they even fight all the time, but no one is afraid of them. Haruka is overwhelmed with emotion and he is shocked when the townspeople tell him that he did a great job holding on his own. Some little old lady even offers to treat his wound, but Haruka can't take all the kindness and demand that they all stop. Tachibana calmly begins tend to his wound, and reminds him that she said that he was alone. However, she explains that she could tell right away that he wasn't choosing to be. She can't figure him out completely, but she explains that the people of this town need his strength. Haruka can't handle everything that's happening, and he declares that he doesn't need anyone and doesn't get involved. Tachibana is quick to point out though, that his actions say something different. He reminded the old man about his bag, and he also fought hard to protect her. Tachibana points out that he actually hasn't given up on people and he doesn't have to. At the very least, she declares that she won't turn her back on him, so she asks that he turns towards her as well. Tachibana is sure that this will be the way he can become who he wanted. Haruka still has a hard time accepting it all, and he makes a mad dash towards the others. He leaps into the air and points out how the delinquency to be playing hero now. He admits that all this stuff about being the town shield sounds really cool, and he absolutely destroys the gang leader that was terrorizing the town. Everyone watches in shock, and Haruka wonders if people were really stuck by him there. We then learn that this is the story about how a low-grade pariah who only knows how to fight became the town's hero. The story continues. We see Haruka arrives at Tachibana's restaurant, furious for having to carry old Grandma Sato. She fears that she might get hurt getting off his back, but he just tells Granny to hurry up. Grandma Sato shocks her boy with her dismount, and he is furious, and she told him that her hips hurt so much that she couldn't walk. The old lady thanks him, but Haruka doesn't know how to handle such kindness. Tachibana stopped him from leaving and gives him some food, as today is his entrance ceremony. It's still pretty early though, so she once again determines that he is all pumped up to go to school. He denies it, but she completely understands, so there are a lot of interesting characters that Furin. Just then some kid named Akihiko Nairai arrives falling flat on his face. He wonders what Tachibana thinks about his new uniform, but Haruka points out that he still has the tags on his jacket. Akihiko manages to get all the tags off his clothes, and Tachibana informs Haruka that the two of them will be in the same grade. Akihiko notices Haruka's strange hair and eye, so Haruka thinks he might have a problem with it. Akihiko is surprised by his attitude and determines that Haruka must have it rough, always being so stressed out at his young age. Akihiko tries to figure out why some nobody likes Haruka came to their town. Haruka is insulted, but Tachibana assures him that Akihiko is like that with everyone. Akihiko eagerly points out that Furin High is no ordinary school. Members of both Furin stood up to protect the locals. They defend the weak and curse the wicked, so they are heroes of justice. Everyone that comes to Furin admires them, and they all want to help protect the town as well. Akihiko is one of them, but he wonders why someone with no ties to Furin like Haruka came to their town. Haruka makes his intentions very clear and reveals that he is there to take the top spot. Protecting the town is great and all, but there are a lot of strong people here and Haruka just wants to be the best among them. Akihiko gets very serious and tells him that he shouldn't say things he will never be able to do. His reason for saying this though, is because he fears Haruka will go bald. Haruka has had enough of his little comedy routine, so he demands that they fight, but it's getting late. Akihiko must leave as he wants to do 3 rounds of town patrol before the entrance ceremony. He declares that starting today he will be a hero of justice, but he shows just how clumsy he is as he leaves. Tachibana points out how funny the kid is, but Haruka can't believe a dog like him wants to be a hero of justice. Tachibana is surprised to hear Haruka talking about someone else's looks, but Haruka meant that guys like him are the type to always chicken out in fights. To him nothing is lamer. Tachibana says it's just his assumption, but Haruka explains that he has seen it a sickening amount of times. Tachibana then takes a moment to teach him something. She points out that the coffee fruit is much different color than the coffee beans that she has in jars. The lesson is that if you look at things only from one perspective, you will never see its true shape. She doesn't think he should be so quick to make assumptions and encourages him to get to know people better so he can figure out what they are really like. Haruka really takes in this valuable lesson, but he just figures that she means Akihiko is a good fighter. Tachibana is disappointed as she wonders if fighting is all he cares about. After he leaves, Haruka thinks he is right. Just then he is stopped and offered some free bread. He's pretty confused, so the beaker explains that Furin kids are always helping out the town and he just wants to give beak. They recognize Haruka as the one who stood up against the gang that day before and point out everyone is talking about him. Haruka doesn't know how to handle praise and leaves, but they insist that he takes some sandwiches for lunch. As Haruka goes through town, he finds that several other people feel the same way. Haruka can't figure out what's going on and wonders what is wrong with all the people in this town. They're acting way too nice to a guy like him. This Haruka realizes that he was just assuming that they would treat him poorly. Just Haruka is shocked when a girl begs him for help, and some ally Akihiko gets beat up for stopping a guy from bothering a girl. The guys just mocked him for thinking he could protect the town, and they declared that he's the one that needs protecting. Akihiko tries to make them take it back, but he just gets pushed around. The guys are surprised though when Akihiko declares that those who cause pain or bring destruction to the town will be purged by both furin. The guys all have a good laugh and point out the only guys in superhero shows talk like that. The leader gets really annoyed and declares that it doesn't matter if Akihiko is a windbreaker, he is the one that will be purged. The guy prepares to attack him, but Haruka shows up just in time to help Akihiko. Akihiko is shocked and wonders why Haruka is saving him, but Haruka doesn't even pay him any attention. The bully's laugh is Haruka there to save his buddy, but Haruka, insulted by that, he reveals that it's not true and he just hates weaklings that think they are strong. Haruka declares that it makes them sick, so the bullies decide to show them what they can do. Akihiko fears for his safety as he is sure that Haruka can't find them on his own, but there's nothing to worry about as the guys are all unconscious just seconds later. Akihiko is surprised that he handled them in the blink of an eye and he wonders just who Haruka is. Akihiko is terrified of him now, but he still thanks Haruka for his help. He is sure that Haruka is disappointed that someone like him is in Bofurin and attending Furin High, but Haruka just points out that he wasn't saving him. Haruka calls him a typical poser and was nearly that he should know what he is and is not capable of. Akihiko explains that he always used to get beat up in middle school. One day he was saved by someone from Furin and it was someone that he would normally be scared of. In that moment though, the guy was really cool, so Akihiko wanted to be just like him. Akihiko came to Furin to become just as awesome, but he breaks down as he realizes that he is just pathetic. Haruka thinks about how he assumed that Akihiko was the type to chicken out in fights, but it's clear that he actually stood up for himself. Haruka tells Akihiko that he is a weak fighter, but there's a chance that he might not be that lame. Akihiko is shocked and the girl he protected arrives to thank him for sticking up for her. She thanks Haruka too, but he tries to get out of there. Akihiko stops him and once again breaks out his little book. He bombards Haruka with questions about his height, weight, blood type, and hobbies. The kid goes crazy analyzing Haruka and taking notes on him. Haruka stops him, so Akihiko explains that he just likes gathering data on guys he likes and things are cool. Haruka just tells him to do whatever he wants, so Akihiko takes this as an invitation to watch Haruka up close and personal. Akihiko offers to show him around and reveals that while he might not be any help in that fight, he is the best guide when it comes to the town and the people living there. Haruka is then surprised when Akihiko declares that he can guide Haruka all the way to the top. Moments later though, Akihiko must encourage Haruka to get going, but he's busy eating because he gets really hungry after fighting. Haruka is amazed by how good the bread is, and Akihiko gets caught up in it too, but he realizes that they have to hurry up and go to school. The two eventually make it there and Haruka is excited since there will be a bunch of people like those guys he met before. Akihiko finds the class roster, where he is delighted to find that he and Haruka are in the same class. Akihiko is amazed by all the other names on the list, but he doesn't actually know them personally, they are just people he admires. Haruka doesn't think it matters who is in their class, but Akihiko points out that there will be spending a lot of time around these people. Just then Akihiko is shocked by one name in particular and Haruka points out that he has lost all his energy. Akihiko gets over it though as Haruka tried to be friendly to everyone in class, and he tries to encourage him to smile at them. Haruka thinks he must be joking, but Akihiko points out that members of Bofurin gathered together to protect the town. Haruka is not from there, so the guys definitely won't like that, and they will ask Haruka why he came to Furin. Akihiko thinks it will be very important to show that Haruka is harmless and not Bofurin's enemy. Haruka isn't even listening though as he is warming up. Akihiko wonders why and he is shocked when Haruka says that he's just getting ready for anything. Akihiko is disappointed that he wasn't listening and points out that it's an outsider, even the slightest misunderstanding could turn the entire school against him. Haruka doesn't actually care if every single person turns against him, and he reminds Akihiko that he is there to fight his way to the top. Haruka enters the class and Akihiko is horrified when it becomes pretty obvious that everyone is staring at him. The class is filled with tough-looking students, but Haruka couldn't ask for anything better. One student knows who Haruka is, but Haruka instantly has his guard up. Akihiko apologizes for him and instantly recognizes this student from his book. However, the kid says he's Leonardo DiCaprio. Haruka falls for it at first and Akihiko had no clue that this cold-looking dude could be such a jokester. Akihiko knows that his name is actually Hayato Suwa, and Suwa says that his eye patch seals away an ancient Chinese spirit in his eye. Haruka loses his temper when he realizes that the kid is all talk, but Suo gets serious and approaches Haruka. The moment becomes tense that Akihiko fears that people from out of town really are treated as anomalies. Haruka prepares for a fight and Akihiko is terrified that there might not be a way to stop it. Just then he is shocked when Suo just pets Haruka on the back and compliments him for being the star of the Main Street brawl that happened the day before. The other students wonder what he's talking about, so Suo explains that before Hiragi arrived at the brawl, Haruka was the one protecting the town first. Akihiko didn't even know this, and the other students began to gather around Haruka. There were rumors about an unknown student in their uniform, and they are glad that this person did a good job helping the town. They're a bit too close for comfort, and Akihiko determines that this is better than them turning against Haruka. It's pretty clear that they won't think of him as their enemy, so Akihiko relaxes, as the person he feared before should be okay with Haruka too. The guys still wonder what he came to Furin in the first place, so Haruka reveals that he came for the top spot. They are all surprised when Akihiko tries to explain this Haruka isn't there to hold them down and beat them up. Haruka says that he actually is, but his new buddy tells them to let him handle this. Just then a table gets tossed and it's some terrifying student. Haruka gets an excited look on his face, but Akihiko begs him not to fight this guy. He is the most dangerous guy in their class and might even be the most dangerous in the entire school. His name is Kyotaro. Haruka declares that he prefers fighting mad dogs like him, so Kyotaro says that he will crush him. Kyotaro throws a powerful punch, but Akihiko is shocked when he realizes that Suo instantly moved him out of the way. Haruka dodged it as well, and compliments Kyotaro as a type he expected to see in Furin. Kyotaro gets even more upset, but this is exactly what Haruka was hoping for. The story continues. We see Akihiko is terrified, but Suo was glad to see some sparks flying. Suo explains this Haruka's mistake was saying that he would be top dog in front of Kyotaro. Haruka does his best to dodge all of Kyotaro's attacks, while Suo explains that Kyotaro has been visiting Furin High School since he was in middle school. In recognition of his determination, Kyotaro was the only person allowed to call himself Bofurin before officially starting. He has such an extreme loyalty to the top dog that he has earned himself the nickname the Top Dog's Fanatic. Another student begs that Suo stop the fight since he is sure that the new student will have his life taken by Kyotaro, but everyone is shocked when Haruka dodges another attack and lands a counter. Haruka points out that Kyotaro was a fan of the top dog, which means that he can't think for himself. He probably can't even make his own choices, so Haruka explains that a guy like that has no chance of beating him. The bloody Kyotaro is furious, so the two go in for some more fighting, but they are interrupted by an announcement. The prison on the other end fumbles on with the microphone, but eventually welcomes all the students to Furin. Haruka is annoyed about being interrupted, so he just wants to get back to the fight. However, the other students are completely focused on the announcement, and Haruka wonders who the guy is that was able to get their attention. The guy introduces himself as Hajime Yumimiya, and Haruka realizes that he is Furin top dog, the strongest guy in Furin. Everyone waits, eager to hear what he has to say, but Yumimiya says that he forgot. He decides to just tell everyone to remember to enjoy their youth. They are in high school now, so they should try to make a lot of memories. He suggests that they all go to the beach and get some shaved ice. Akihiko can't believe what this tough guy is saying, but Kyotaro thinks that he's trying to make fun of the top dog. Yumimiya believes there was so many students there's bound to be some friction, but he assumes that they're not troublemakers who would start a fistfight on the first day. Kyotaro tries to hide the fact that they are troublemakers fist fighting on the first day, so he wipes away the blood on his face. Yumimiya then gets real serious for one message, and he tells everyone to defend the town. They were given the name Bofurin, so they must protect the people and everything important. That is the school's one and only rule, so other students accept. Haruka shocked that this guy isn't even in the room, but everyone is eager to obey his orders, and he wonders just how strong of a fighter Yumimiya is. Suo wants the two fighters to shake hands and a grand display of youthful understanding, but Haruka doesn't even think the fight is over yet. Akihiko wonders why Haruka is getting so red, but Haruka just silences him. Suo reminds Kyotaro that Yumimiya wouldn't like to hear that he was fighting a classmate, and he tells Haruka that showing respect to other students is important if he wants to be top dog. Kyotaro surprisingly wants to shake hands, so Akihiko begs Haruka to hurry up and do it. Haruka prepares to do so and reminds himself to just shake it. Haruka must have been through some serious hardship because he must remind himself not to slap Kyotaro's hand away or throw him to the ground. Haruka shakes his hand, but thinks about how touching people outside of a fight feel really weird. Suo is glad to see that their youth is burning bright, but their grip is so tight that they both wonder if the other is actually a gorilla. The other students celebrate and they are amazed that Haruka actually managed to land a hit on Kyotaro. Haruka is surprised by how nice they are being, but he realizes that it has been this way the entire time since coming to Furin. Haruka has gone silent with his thoughts, but the other students just wonder if he got choked out. Haruka joins the fun as he points out that he wouldn't get choked out so easily. In his mind though, he thinks about how he had no idea that people could be so friendly. Just then, the students are told to go outside and moments later Haruka is surprised that they have to paint over some graffiti. Haruka has no clue why they're doing this, but Akihiko takes pride in doing a good job and Suo compliments his painting skills. A look back to just before this painting moment shows what happened when they were told to go outside. The student had demanded them to do it, explained that he will get in trouble if they are too slow. It took them almost 8 minutes to get outside, so Hiragi explains that toddlers are faster than them. Haruka tells Akihiko that he saw Hiragi when he saved Tachibana, but Hiragi overhears him and gets furious. Haruka has never supposed to mention that Tachibana was there, and Hiragi explains that he will be in big trouble if it gets out that Tachibana was in danger. Hiragi threatens as something bad will happen if he doesn't listen, but this just ends up being that he will start coughing up blood. Hiragi takes some stomach medicine and explains that he doesn't know what brought Haruka to this school, but he chose one tough general to be under. Akihiko wonders where Hiragi was like, so Haruka explains that he's the type of weirdo to stress himself into a stomach ache then has to take a Gascon 10 pill. Akihiko diligently takes notes on Hiragi and explains that he is doing it because Hiragi is one of the school's 4 kings. Yumiya sits at the top of Bofurin, but just below him are his generals, the 4 kings. Each one basically acts like a captain for all 3 years of a given class. Hiragi has the students split up into groups with the 2nd or 3rd year as their captain, and he explains that they will be going to patrol the town. Hiragi is the captain of Haruka's group, which also has Akihiko, Suo, and Kyotaro. Kyotaro and Haruka are in the same group because Yumiya told Hiragi to keep a close eye on the troublemaking fistfighters. The guys are surprised that he knows about the fight since the girl points out that he was just defending himself. Hiragi has to pull them apart so they can continue patrolling. Haruka points out that all they are doing is walking around and wonders why they aren't beating up some intruders. However, Hiragi points out that that would be offense, not defense. Walking around in their uniforms is enough to scare away the smaller gangs, so that is what they are doing. Haruka thinks that's just boring, but Hiragi points out the only enjoying fights doesn't make him much fun either. Just then, Hiragi does his duty as he helps an old man on a ladder. We then learn that this is why the guys were painting. They're helping the old guy paint over graffiti, as this is also Bofurin job. When they are done they are given food as a thank you. Hiragi completely understands how Haruka only cares about fighting since all the other Bofurin guys used to feel the same way. However, they eventually realize that being needed by the people of the town is fun too. Haruka gives it some thought and takes a bite out of the snack. They arrive at a tunnel, where Haruka sees a symbol of a pretty ugly looking dog. Akihiko wishes he would be more careful with his words, and he explains that they are at the border between Bofurin and another team's territory. Past these train tracks, they have their own rules and it's like a totally different country. It would be really dangerous to cause any trouble there. The other team's symbol is the lion head, and they believe their strength is everything. This is supposed to terrify outsiders, but that's the kind of model Haruka likes. Just then, the group sees that a Furin middle schoolers being chased by Lion's Head members. It becomes clear that this kid won't make it past the train tracks in time, so Hiragi just lowers his head as there is nothing that can be done. However, just then everyone is shocked when Haruka and Kyotaro attack the Lion's Head member. Akihiko terrified of what they have done since they aren't supposed to interfere in the Lion's Head turf. Haruka says that the kid is on their team, so Haruka and Kyotaro both point out that this means that the Lion's Head member is interfered first. Haruka tells Kyotaro to go away as he can handle this on his own, but he doesn't listen. The Lion's Head members mock their teammate for getting knocked out by one kick, but Haruka thinks about how ruthless they are since he is supposed to be their teammate. Just then, the Lion Head member get terrified when someone shows up after seeing what happened. Hiragi can't believe that this guy showed up out of all people, and he reveals that he is a Lion Head second in command named Togami. Togami wonders what's going on and casually greets Hiragi when Hiragi explains that the guys were chasing one of their own. Haruka gets annoyed by how they back this guy is, but he can see that he's the real deal when he can tell that the Haruka and Kyotaro were the ones that knocked out his team member. That knocked out guy gets up furious at them for breaking the rules and invading their turf, but Togami shocks everyone when he smashes a bottle over his head. Togami doesn't care if it was on their turf or not, he only cares that this kid lost the fight. Togami punches this guy relentlessly and explains that him losing means he is weak. The Lion's Head team doesn't like members that are weak, so he continues to beat him up, but Hiragi stops him. Hiragi points out that he is part of the Togami's team, but Togami corrects him. He removes the guy's lion's head jacket and explains that their group doesn't need the weak. Everyone is in shock at this ruthless guy, but Haruka just thinks he is lame. He thought the lions had believed that strength was everything, but he points out that beating up the weak doesn't really show strength. Haruka stands right up to this guy, disappointed after thinking that he found a fun group. Everyone is shocked to see him stand up to Togami, and the Lion's Head guys are sure that Togami will end his life for saying what he said. Surprisingly though, Togami is fine with it and more curious about Haruka's strange hairdo. Togami also doesn't like how fast Haruka talks and gets serious to point out that it pisses him off. Togami reveals that he has made his decision and explains that he will beat Haruka to a pulp when the time is right. He states that he has memorized Haruka's face, and the lion head guys leave. Akihiko breaks out in terror as he points out that Haruka and Kyotaro might have just started a war. Suo calms him down and points out that he doesn't want Akihiko ending up like Hiragi. Hiragi is so stressed that he has to slam down some Gaskin 10 pills, and Akihiko tries to remind him not to exceed the recommended dosage. Akihiko wishes Haruka that unprovoked Togami and points out that he might have let them go after the kick. Hiragi knows better and explains that Togami is probably the most territorial guy in Lion's Head. He wouldn't have let it slide, but what's done is done. Hiragi then shocks everyone as he acknowledges that he should have moved first, and he apologizes. Hiragi tells the middle schooler named Sasaki to come with them so they can report to Yumimiya. Haruka can tell that Hiragi's stomach is really giving him problems now, so Haruka wonders if he's really that afraid of reporting to Yumimiya. Yumimiya sounded pretty laid back during his announcement, so Haruka wonders what kind of guy he really is. They arrive at the roof of the school and everyone marvels at how incredible it is. Hiragi approaches Yumimiya and Haruka prepare to meet the top dog at the school. All the students are shocked though, when Yumimiya is just excited about his plans. He wants to barbecue with everyone in the summer, and Haruka wonders if this guy is really the top dog. The story continues. We see Hiragi explains that they got real trouble, and all the boys are shocked when Yumimiya reveals that he already knows. It isn't what they think though, as the problem Yumimiya is talking about is that they don't have enough seedlings to plant. Hiragi tries to explain that the problem is Lion's Head, but Yumimiya just wonders if you want them to plant some habaneros. The boys can tell that they are clearly not on the same page, but at least they have found out the cause behind Hiragi's stomach pain. Haruka can't believe that this guy is the top dog, but Kyotaro demands that he show Yumimiya some respect. Yumimiya just now notices the other guys, so he shows them all his plans. Hiragi is frustrated that Yumimiya never listens, and Haruka points out to all the plants look the same. This of course upsets Kyotaro, and Yumimiya tells them to have a closer look since all his plants are different. Haruka realizes that Yumimiya was actually like this over the loudspeakers as well. He is kind of a goof, but his voice was all it took to get everyone's attention. Haruka isn't able to see it right now, so he wonders what it is about Yumimiya that draws people to him. Sasaki can't take it anymore, so he decides to just explain what happened. He chased after a shoplifter, and before he knew it, he was in Lion's Head territory. Lion's Head chased after him, but he was saved by Haruka and Kyotaro. Sasaki admires Bofurin a lot, and he just got carried away. He blames himself for sparking a clash with Lion's Head, so he apologizes. Yumimiya somehow knows his name, and everyone is shocked when Yumimiya actually thanks him. He explains as Sasaki was protecting the people of the town, so he has nothing to apologize for. He then vows that they will take care of the rest. Yumimiya then goes back to being casual as he laughs at how Lion's Head must have hated getting kicked off their feet. Hiragi is in a great deal of stomach pain as he apologizes as well, but Yumimiya points out that he can't take responsibility for everything. Akihiko agrees and points out that Haruka was the one that pushed things too far anyway. Yumimiya wonders if he picked a fight, but Haruka explains that they said that strength was everything. They were actually really lame though, since they beat up on someone weaker. Everyone watches in amazement, as Haruka didn't hold back and explained everything himself. Haruka fears he will be punished, but he is shocked when Yumimiya agrees with him. The Lion's Head has been acting pretty lame recently. He heard about what Haruka did on Main Street, and combined with what he did today, Yumimiya can only thank him for protecting their family. All the guys are stunned when Yumimiya calls him a reliable new little bro, but Kyotaro clearly doesn't like it. Haruka finally realizes why everyone is drawn to him, and it's because Yumiya makes him feel safe. Haruka doesn't know how to handle situations like this, so he pushes his hand away and wonders who made him his big bro. It's not that big of a deal though, as Yumiya sees everyone in the town as family. Just then, Hiragi receives a call from a guy named Kaji, but he can barely speak and only says the words Lion's Head. Just then the leader of Lion's Head calls for their attention. He drags Kaji behind him and introduces himself as Choji. He calls out Yumiya specifically and insists that they have a fight. Akihiko loses his mind as he is shocked that their leader came. Haruka, on the other hand, thinks about how Togami was the second in command, and he becomes excited when he realizes that this leader must be stronger than him. Just then, Haruka startled as he senses a terrifying power. He sees that Yumiya is preparing himself, but he has no clue what that feeling was. All the guys head outside, but Yumiya tells them all to stay back. Haruka angrily says that he wants to fight, but Yumiya has gotten very serious and simply declares that he will not repeat himself. Haruka is shocked and realizes that his legs won't move anymore. Yumiya has completely changed, so Haruka wonders if this is really the same guy. Yumiya tells Choji that he is holding one of his members, and everyone is shocked that Choji is just smiling right in front of him. Yumiya can be really terrifying, so they wonder just how crazy Choji must be. Choji is excited for a one-on-one fight. He points out that they started it so they can't back down. Yumiya acknowledges that they started the fight, but he points out that Choji has done enough already. He has beat up several of his members, so Yumiya considers them even. Choji has a look around, so Akihiko is surprised that the guy just accepted that answer. Yumiya tells Choji to leave, but everyone is stunned when he attacks instead. Yumiya easily stopped the attack and exclaims that Choji is just as impatient as ever. Choji points out that he started a new fight, so it's Yumiya's turn to fight back. Yumiya wonders why he wants to fight so badly, but all the guys can't believe when Choji declares that it's not just about fighting, he specifically wants to take down Yumiya. Choji explains that he has gotten very bored after becoming top dog in Lion's Head. Yumiya is top dog in Boruran, but he seems to always be laughing and having fun. Choji doesn't think this is fair, so he wants to make Furin his. Akihiko thinks the kid is crazy, but Yumiya seems to know something. He understands that this something must have been rough for Choji, but Choji has no clue what he's talking about. Just then Choji is surprised when his other members arrive, and this causes the Bofurin guys to step up. Togami calls Haruka Reversi, and Haruka calls him Shaggy. Yumiya tries to stop the guys, but Haruka explains that while he won't interfere in a duel, he can't just stand by and watch an invasion. His response is surprising, but Yumiya seems to be pleased with it. Choji wishes everyone would leave so he could have a one-on-one with Yumiya, but Togami doesn't think that's an option anymore. He points to this school, and we see that all the Furin students are angry and ready for battle. Akihiko is panics as things could get really bad really fast, but Yumiya tells everyone not to make a move. Yumiya agrees to fight Choji one-on-one just as long as he tells his guys to back down. One of them insults Yumiya for being afraid of battle, but Kyotaro wants him to watch his mouth. The guy keeps antagonizing, but another Lionhead's guy points out that Kyotaro was one of the guys at the bridge, so makes fun of the way this guy talks, so Togami calms everyone down. Everyone is then surprised when he suggests that they save their duel for another day as it's getting dark. His reason is pretty evil though, as he points out that it's hard to see people's faces get smashed in at night. He wonders if Reversi agrees with him, but Haruka points out that his face would be the one getting smashed in. Choji can tell that these two have a grudge against each other, so he suggests that everyone get involved. He doesn't recommend an all-out brawl, but instead he wants to have a bunch of one-on-one fights. Togami agrees, so they decide that Yumiya will face Choji, Haruka will fight Togame, Kyotaro will face the blonde guy, and Sual will fight the quiet guy. Yumiya thinks that dueling Choji should be enough, but Haruka and the other guys agree to fight. The three of them are really eager, so Hiraki can't believe this year's new kids. Just then, another Lionhead's member requests that he be allowed to fight. He chooses Hiragi as his opponent, and Hiragi is shocked as he seems to know this guy named Seiko. The normally calm Hiragi becomes furious, and he apologizes to Yumiya as he has decided to join the fight. The fight is decided, so they agree to put their teams on the line. The fight will be the next day, so Akihiko panics. Haruka tells him to calm down, but Akihiko points out that this is all his fault. Tachibana encourages him to eat something, that stressing out won't change anything, but Akihiko can't calm down. He fears what will happen if Yumiya loses, but Kyotaro gets furious by the thought. Still, this means that Lion's Head would take over Bofurin, and Bofurin might even stop existing. Tachibana once again points out that stressing out won't do anything, and reminds Akihiko that the Bofurin guys aren't that weak. Haruka would like to leave after scarfing down his food, but Akihiko points out that he didn't eat his veggies. Even more importantly though, Yumimiya and Hiragi haven't arrived yet. They are late, but Akihiko explains that they had to talk down everyone who is ready for blood. Haruka wonders why they wanted to meet at this cafe, and Suo explains it is somewhat of a tradition for Bofurin to come to this place before a fight. Just then Yumimiya arrives, and he showers Tachibana with compliments. He even shows her his plants, and Suo points out that he is quite fond of Tachibana. Haruka wonders if she is his girlfriend, but they all call him an idiot. Yumimiya points out that she is his little sister, but she explains that that isn't it either. It turns out that they were raised in the same situation, and Yumimiya just started calling her his sibling on his own. Tachibana is relieved when Haruka doesn't think too much of it, but Haruka surprised to hear that she's only 16, the same age as him. He points out that she is really mature, so he thought she was in her 20s. Kyoro can tell that Yumimiya doesn't like this conversation, so he puts an end to it. Yumimiya then terrifies to Haruka by simply agreeing that Tachibana is very mature. Hiragi then explains that Yumimiya protects Tachibana like crazy, and terrible things would happen if he ever found out that she was in trouble. Hiragi isn't eating, so he explains that he's just thinking about Lion's Head. Haruka wonders if they used to be different, so Hiragi explains that they believe in strength alone. They used to simply care about strong fighters. They have always had a lot of hot heads, but they never would have chased the middle schooler. Bofurin once had a big clash with them. It was a huge ball, but Hiragi remembers it being oddly satisfying. Since Choji took over, bad rumors started spreading. He has heard that Choji has been picking fights everywhere. Choji and Togami used to be symbols of strength who cared deeply for their team, so Hiragi laments how something has changed them. Yumimiya suspects that it's the fault of someone named Tomiyama. Yumimiya explains that they will probably find out more tomorrow, but Haruka points out that they will be fighting tomorrow. He doesn't think there will be much talking, but Yumimiya explains that fights or conversations, punches are a language that sometimes works better than words. However, that might only be true for guys like them. The night comes to an end, so Sasaki thanks everyone for saving him and hopes that they win the fight. Everyone accepts his apology, but Haruka points out that he isn't fighting for him. Tachibana calls him a dope and tells him to say something cool, like "leave it to me." This reminds Haruka how that's exactly what Yumimiya said, so he says it too. The next day, the Bofurin guys arrive at the tunnel and enter the Lionhead's territory. Haruka thinks about how this is the first time he has ever fought for someone else. He isn't sure why, but for some reason he feels more unbeatable than ever. Choji welcomes them to his territory, and Yumimiya declares that they are ready. The story continues. We see Choji excitedly lead them somewhere, so the Bofurin guys follow. On the way, Haruka notices that the entire place is filled with bars. Akihiko explains that it's known for getting pretty lively at night, but also very dangerous. Haruka now wonders what Akihiko is doing there and points out that he isn't one-on-one fight. Akihiko declares that he is there because he is a member of Bofurin. Even if you can't protect others like they can, he would at least like to be able to protect himself. Akihiko asks that he be allowed to learn by watching. Haruka angrily tells him to just do what he wants, but Suo can that Haruka was flattered. Hiragi gets upset with them and wishes they would act at least a little bit nervous about the fight. Yumimiya reminds him to relax a bit and points out that the new students are very promising. Choji leads them further into the area, and Togami formally welcomes them to Orion, the Lionhead's secret lair. Akihiko consults little information book and explains to the others the Lionhead lair is a movie theater named Orion that went out of business. Nowadays they call it Ori, which means cage. They all enter the theater, where a bunch of Lion's Head members cheer as it is announced that the fighters are about to enter the arena. The crowd is very loud and unruly, so Akihiko is terrified. Suo understands the nickname now because this is truly a cage of wild beasts. Akihiko begins to wonder if they will make it back home or even if they will make it back alive. Haruka notices this and reminds Akihiko that he's there to study. He instructs Akihiko to keep his eyes forward, and the refocus Akihiko does just that. Choji announces that it's time to begin, and Yumimiya points out that he has really turned this entire thing to a spectacle. Yumimiya tells his guys that this has turned into a big event. The only fight that really matters is his one-on-one with Choji. Their wins or losses won't count, so they should feel at ease when they get on stage. Haruka refuses that statement and declares that whether it counts or not, he does not intend to lose. The others agree, and Yumimiya is excited by how reliable they are. Choji wants his fight against Yumimiya to go first, but there's no way that they're going to let the captain start the battle. The blonde guy wants to go first as he points out that Kyotaro has been shooting daggers at him with his eyes the entire time. Everyone is okay with this, so they head to the stage. Haruka reminds Kyotaro that they still have a score to settle. However, if he loses to pathetic losers like these guys, then Haruka doesn't want to fight them ever again. Kyotaro has no words like always and just heads to the stage. The blonde guy's name is Arima, so Akihiko finds him in his little book. Arima is known for being a heavy hitter as he has broken several ribs with just one punch. Suae tells them not to worry though, since Kyotaro is pretty much the same. Yumimiya shocks them though when he says that they aren't even in the same league. On stage, Arima is annoyed by Kyotaro's stare. He uses a dirty trick to distract Kyotaro by pretending that something bad happened to Yumimiya. Arima uses the advantage to land a punch and he calls Kyotaro an idiot for looking away during a fight. Haruka can tell that there's nothing to worry about though. Kyotaro is just building up his rage and he absolutely destroys Arima. He calls Arima the idiot and reminds him to be more respectful when saying Yumimiya's name. Arima's completely unconscious, but Haruka just disappointed by how weak he was. The Lionheads guys can't believe that he got knocked out so easily and they wonder who this first-year Bofurien guy is. Akihiko points out Kyotaro just needed one punch and the Lion's Head guys get concerned. Choji, on the other hand, is just amused by how tough Kyotaro is. The Bofurien guys look over to them and they see just how focused Togami is. Chuji now wants to fight Kyotaro, so Togami has to tell them to wait for his turn. Akihiko stand by their reaction. Not only do they not care about the guy who lost, they're complimenting the opponent. Akihiko is more certain than ever that there is definitely something wrong with these two guys. Yumimiya points out that Kyotaro has always been really tough, so it's no surprise that he wasn't affected by a punch to the face. Akihiko was still shocked by it, but Haruka wasn't because he was already fought Kyotaro. The others are glad to see that this means Haruka finally accepts Kyotaro's strength, but Haruka too embarrassed to admit it. While they argue, Yumimiya looks over to the Lionhead leaders. Choji wonders how Togami would beat Kyotaro if he had to fight him. Yumimiya watches closely as Togami is so focused that he doesn't even answer Choji. His seriousness gets Choji hyped for more fighting, so he instructs a couple of his guys to clear the stage. The guys get tired of dragging Arima, so they just decide to throw him off the stage onto the ground. They mock Arima for being so weak and kick his unconscious body, which makes Akihiko point out how horrible they are. Akihiko then horrified once when Haruka tells the two guys to not even talk around him. He never wants to hear them talk about how they're devotees of power ever again, and it embarrasses him just hearing wimps like them speak. Suwa joins in and points out that kids like them just won't understand until they are defeated. The guys get furious when they're looking for a fight. Their anger turns to terror, however, when Chuji very seriously tells them to back away since they are not their opponents. Haruka eagerly wants to fight next, but Suwa declares that it's his turn to fight the quiet kid. Suwa points out that his opponent looks really stressed out, so they should get some exercise. The kid's name is Kanuma and all the Lion's Head guys cheer him on. As Suwa prepares to fight, he explains that he thought Haruka was stupid for wanting to go for the top spot. Haruka gets furious, but Suwa explains that he was wrong. He thought Haruka the words were empty and meaningless, but he now knows that he actually has a spine. Suwa thinks that's pretty awesome and he will do his best so he can keep up with Haruka. Haruka never knows what to say in these situations, so you just tell Suwa to hurry up and get on stage. Akihiko searches for information about Kanuma in this book, but Haruka more interested in learning about Suwa. Akihiko explains that Suwa was famous for being strong in middle school. Haruka can tell that much just by looking at him, but unfortunately Akihiko doesn't have any more information. Hiragi explains that he has heard of Suwa quite a bit as well, but he doesn't have any details about him either. The same goes for Yumimiya, but he could tell from the moment they met that's always the kind gentleman. On stage, it turns out the Kanuma is furious after seeing Arima get knocked out. Suwa points out that this isn't like the Lion's Head guys since they treat their own members so poorly. Kanuma reveals that he has known Arima his entire life and they have always had each other's back. Suwa points out that he only whines when he is a victim, and that is the behavior of an impatient child. Suwa mocks him by speaking to him like he's a little boy, and Haruka thinks about how the look on Suwa's face is not the look of a gentleman. Suwa's mockery causes Kanuma to attack, but everyone is shocked when Suwa easily avoids it. Everyone then watches and Suwa continues to mock him as he recommends that they both try and act like adults now. Kanuma is horrified as he can't understand. Hustle got behind him so quickly. He decides to attack faster, but this just gets him tossed to the ground. Further attempts at landing an attack fail and Kanuma gets even more frustrated when Suo keeps insulting him. Suo just keeps toying with this guy and Akihiko is amazed since he is making it look like his opponent is stumbling around on his own. The audience gets annoyed with Kanuma and they tell them to stop letting himself be toyed with. Kanuma thinks about how they have no clue what it's like to have everything he tries so easily countered, and he wishes they had to try and fight Suo. Yumiya realizes that Suo was no ordinary gentleman, and Haruka points out that he doesn't even have a shred of kindness. He is actually pretty ruthless as he is tormenting an inferior opponent and making a fool out of him. Kanuma is getting destroyed as Suo makes it clear just how large the gap is in their skill. This would make Haruka amount to end himself if he were Kanuma, but of course he would never end up that way. Hiragi's surprised to see that Suo wanted to prove a point in this fight, and Yumiya assumes that it's because he was affected by someone else. Akihiko realizes this as well, and thinks about how Suo wanted to keep up with Haruka. Seeing Suo fight has caused Haruka's attention, so he wonders how he can get Suo to seriously spar with him. The fight continues, but it just becomes more apparent that Suo was toying with Kanuma. Suo barely has to move to dodge these attacks, and he drops Kanuma once again. The crowd is turned against Kanuma and he is horrified to see that Chuji has fallen asleep watching his fight. What's even worse is that Togami is clearly not impressed and he remembers what happened to the weakling under the bridge. Kanuma begins to panic and his heart begins to race. Suo sees this better than anyone and explains that Kanuma is finally figuring out the answer to what it takes to be an adult. Kanuma absolutely loses it, so he goes in for an attack, but Suo stops him in his tracks. Kanuma then shocked when Suo reveals that he already knows what's going on in his head. He assumes that Kanuma is imagining himself becoming the person he used to ridicule. This is good for him, though, since the answer to what he needs to become an adult is an imagination. Kanuma completely terrified, but Suo calmly points out that he can now move on to the next step. Suo ruthlessly continues with his lesson as he explains that Kanuma needs one more thing to make his imagination become a reality. Suo prepares an attack, so Kanuma begs him to stop. Just then Togami asks the eye patch-kun stop the fight. Kanuma can't understand why, so Togami just tells Kanuma that he has humiliated them enough. Togami corrects himself though, as Kanuma can't humiliate them anymore because he is no longer part of Lion's Head. This is Kanuma's worst nightmare and his imagination has just become reality. Suo's final lesson is that becoming an adult means being able to empathize. To do that, a person needs imagination and experience. Suo is happy for Kanuma though, at least he was able to learn something. The story continues. We see audience is totally silent as they can't believe that Kanuma was completely toyed with. None of the Lion Head guys know who Suo is, so they realize that he must be a first year. This is extremely concerning and it makes him realize that Bofurin is really bad news. Suo was really humble about his victory, but Akihiko wants to know if he's kung fu. He is shocked to learn that Suo doesn't even know what his fighting technique is, since his master just made it up. Akihiko diligently takes notes and Suo apologizes for his behavior against Kanuma. Suo says Haruka motivated him, but Haruka doesn't care and just wants to make sure that Suo goes all out when they fight each other. Akihiko can't believe how Haruka wants to fight everyone, and Suo says that he wouldn't want to fight Haruka since he looks like a nuisance. The two of them argue, but Yumiya is glad to see that everyone is so lively. Suo keeps saying agonizing Haruka, but Yumiya can tell that they will make a great team. Just then they see Kanuma dragging Arima's body. Kanuma still traumatized, but what just happened, and he tells Arima that it's all over. Of course, Chuji now wants to fight Eye Patch-kun and Haruka declares that it's finally his turn. Unfortunately for him, Seiko points at Hiragi and Hiragi apologizes to Haruka as they must go first. Haruka is furious and points out that the other two first years just went, so it doesn't make sense to save him for later. Hiragi explains this Haruka opponent is Togami, but it doesn't look like he wants to step up just yet. Togami is their second in command, so Hiragi points out there would make more sense if he fought him instead. Haruka gets upset as he assumes that Hiragi doesn't think he can win, but he is shocked when Hiragi explains that he is trusting Haruka. Haruka doesn't know how to handle this situation either and just declares that he doesn't need Hiragi's trust, he will win either way. Hiragi doesn't talk much about himself, but he and Seiko seem to know each other. Chuji cheers Seiko on, but Togami just surprises that Seiko interests on having a one-on-one with someone. It's not like him, so Togami wonders if something happened between him and Hiragi. Togami can never tell what Saku is thinking, but Chuji is more excited than anything. It's not every day that they get to see when Bofurin 4 Kings go up against Seiko. Hiragi tries to catch up with Seiko, but Seiko doesn't say a single word. Hiragi then just apologizes as he says that he will be winning this fight. Chuji demands that they stop with the talking and just fight, so that's exactly what they do. Seiko shows his insane speed, surprising everyone, and he declares that he is tired of Hiragi looking down on him. His old self is long gone and he plans to force Hiragi to learn that. The two of them battle it out some more, and Hiragi just barely manages to avoid a devastating kick. Chuji cheers Seiko on and Akihiko as terrified as Seiko is managing to put a lot of pressure on Hiragi. Togami is impressed by how well Seiko is doing, but Chuji says it's to be expected since Seiko was one of their top 5. Togami explains that Seiko has been in more fights than anyone and he joined Lion's Head seemingly out of desperation. Chuji is more surprised by how much Seiko just talked. He usually only says yes or no and one more word if they are lucky. Him speaking more now means that he must be very angry at Hiragi. Seiko then dodges a bunch of Hargus attacks while pointing out all his weaknesses. Seiko is disappointed that Hiragi hasn't improved at all, and Hiragi points out that Seiko has gotten a lot more talkative. Hiragi says that he used to be so quiet that he didn't need to teach him not to talk during a fight or he would bite his tongue. Just mentioning their past makes Seiko furious, so he goes in for another attack. Hiragi is shocked that Seiko have gone faster and he gets knocked back. Seiko was disappointed to see that Hiragi not only didn't improve, he even got weaker, and it's because he hangs out with a chummy group of pushovers. Haruka becomes furious, but it's not towards Seiko. Seiko is surprised to see that he is talking to Hiragi. Haruka points out that they're getting marked because of him and the only weak part about Hiragi should be his stomach. Akihiko has to hold him back from attacking Hiragi, and Suo points out to Haruka is starting to care more about his friends. The embarrassed Haruka says that he's just angry, so Yumiya calms everyone down. Yumiya tells Seiko that Hiragi is one of their 4 kings and the leader of the team named after Tomontan. He confidently explains that Tomontan has another name, but Seiko has no clue what point he's trying to make. Just then, everyone is shocked to Hiragi stands back up and declares that he hasn't gotten kicked like that in a while. Seiko then just barely digests his incredibly powerful punch, and Hiragi acknowledges that Seiko was a totally different guy now. Yumiya then reveals that Tomontan is also known as Bishamontan, the god of war who controls the battlefield. Hiragi is upset about being yelled at by her first year and must take some medicine. It isn't all bad though, as the fight is starting to get fun. A look into the past shows some bullies being upset with Seiko for being so cocky. Seiko denies it, but the bullies just beat him up anyway. Luckily for him, a young Hiragi showed up to ask them what they were doing. Back to the president, the two guys figured out more evenly now. The lion head guys watching amazement, as it's not every day that they get to see a one-on-one like this. The Bofurans' first years are impressed, as well as they had no idea that Hiragi are this strong. Haruka wishes he would have shown his strength from the start, but Suo thinks that he was inspired by Haruka's words. Chuji really surprised by Seiko's fighting ability, but Togami can tell that Hiragi has the upper hand. This becomes even more evident as the fight goes on, but Seiko refuses to believe that Hiragi's current self is stronger than him. This doesn't make any sense to him, as Hiragi lives a cushy life and hangs out with his friendly crowd. Returning to the past, show that Hiragi beat up all the bullies. Seiko could understand why Hiragi helped him, so Hiragi just explained that bullying is bad. He told Seiko that bullies will keep picking on him if he just stays quiet, so he needs to start fighting back at least a little bit. Seiko was completely hopeless, saying that Lionhead philosophy is devotion to power. The stronger recognized, and the stronger you are, the higher you will go. Seiko didn't care about his little speech and declared that all he cared about was being able to fight strong guys. He was determined to become stronger so he could defeat Hiragi and make him regret his decision. Back to the present, Seiko refuses to lose. Unlike Hiragi, he didn't get chummy with anyone, and instead he devoted himself to getting stronger. Seiko goes in for an attack before he's able to predict his movements. This just makes Seiko more furious, as he points out that Hiragi decided to fall under someone else. He declares that he can never lose to someone like that, but Hiragi stops his punch. Hiragi apologizes for not meeting Seiko's expectations and lands a powerful punch. Seiko gets emotional and thinks about how not meeting his expectations was never the problem. He doesn't even think that there's anything Hiragi needs to apologize for. Seiko knew that Hiragi was only looking out for him, but what hurt was when Hiragi told Seiko to stop following him. Seiko didn't actually care for Hiragi wanted to support someone else, he just wanted Hiragi to tell them to keep following him. Hiragi's last punch now turns out to be the one that ends the battle as Seiko passes out. Another look into the past shows on Seiko promised to follow Hiragi forever before they stopped being friends. He had already made up his mind, as he wished Hiragi would take the top spot. He promised to follow Hiragi while he was taking the top spot and even after. Back to the present, All the Lion's Head guys are shocked to see that Seiko has lost, and they are all one of Bofurin 4 kings. As for the Bofurin guys, they are all really proud of their boy. Chuji wants to fight Hiragi now too, but Togami just told someone to get Seiko off stage. The Lion Head guys are hesitant, so Hiragi just does it himself. Togami tells him that he didn't need to handle Seiko so gently, but Hiragi stops him from grabbing Seiko. Hiragi states that he should wait till after his one-on-one to deal with Seiko, and his anger can be seen as he grabs onto Togami forcefully. Hiragi points out that he should wait since they don't know what will happen. Togami is confused by this, so Hiragi explains that handling things the way they do will not make them stronger. Hiragi calmly says that he's just talking to himself, but Togami points out that he's saying a lot for a person that's not talking to anyone. The Bofurin first year just compliment Hiragi and a job well done, and Yumimiya says that he was really impressed by his roundhouse kick. Hiragi sure that Yumimiya will want to know about his past, but he is shocked when Yumimiya says that he only wants to hear about it when Hiragi is ready to tell him. That will be the story he wants to hear, so Hiragi relieved that he said that. That brings the episode to an end. Thanks for watching. Want next part? Subscribe the channel and turn on notification bell.